With the addition of the Plainsman to the farm, we will now be able to increase our row crop by adding larger fields. Welcome to Episode 2, the 100-acre field.
Welcome in, everyone. We're just getting the Oliver all set up to be able to work our field next to the house as we take the new Plainsman across to be able to get it started up in the new 100-acre field. It's going to be nice to have one big field on this map. Like I said in the previous episode, the 100-acre field was the biggest field on the farm. And now we're going to recreate that today. Let's get this all started. Well, we got Grandpa out working in this field, so we're going to grab the Plainsman and run to the back to get that field started up. Head back here. And 100-acre field was not square by any means, so this one's not going to be either. So a funny story about the V-Ripper that we had on the farm. These big four-wheel drives, they're all designed the same that we had. The Plainsman, the Oliver, they were all the same base style. Well, the way the rear end of the tractor was designed, it had some kind of issue that it wouldn't slip at all. So the axle was so thin in the middle that the weight of the V-Ripper and the pull it had would actually snap one of the wheels off. One of the axles would fall right off, and then the back end of the tractor would just fall right to the ground. But with all-time four-wheel drive like these have, the front end would still pull it. I never got to experience what the ride was like when one of the back wheels broke off, but it would be a rough ride. The Oliver was the one that had the most trouble with this issue because the duals had more weight on the outside pulling, so it put more stress on the axle itself. But like I said, I never got to experience. I'm not sure exactly what it was like when it did happen, but it was quite an issue with them. Let me try to get a good boundary for this field and see what it's going to look like. It's going to be a big field. We never used the V-Rippers too much. It was only really when the ground is really dry and we need to get deep in to let water saturate farther down. I mean, they came in handy if it was going to be a flood year because the ground was ripped so far down that the water would sink in and it wouldn't stand up in the field as bad. Most of the fields were bottom grounds along a creek, so there was a levee, a dike system around the creek, but during heavy flood years, sometimes that levee would get blown out, and then of course all that sand from the creek would come into the fields. Well, the issue with that, you would always have these big sand dunes out in the field that you'd have to sit there and try to work around, try to get the sand down and the dirt up on top. Well, that was always a problem because you get stuck. The big disc weighed enough that it would sit there and start burying the disc in the sand. And sometimes with these four-wheel drives, you could wiggle them back and forth to get some traction to be able to pull itself out. But a lot of times, I was born in the 80s, so I wasn't very old during the 80s series would have been. But in the 90s, a lot of times I'd have to go get Dad and say, hey, the Oliver is stuck, or the Plainsman was stuck, and he'd have to bring the other one to try to get me out. So that was one of the dilemmas we always experienced after a flood the previous years, trying to get rid of the sand that's in the field. Let me continue this field. Let me get the 100-acre all worked. We got the outer perimeter done. There's a few trees in the middle that I do need to get rid of. So we will do that. Then, of course, we'll have to bring some lime out here. We still have lime from last year left over. We actually put it in the bin. Of course, in real life, you're not going to put that in the bin. If you put it in the bin, you would never get it back out of the bin. Kind of hardened. So, but we're going to pretend like it's just fine and bring it out here and lime the field. I just missed a little piece. If I don't fix it now, I'll never fix it. All right, well, let me get this 100-acre field worked up, and then we'll get some lime in it. Well, we're about to get the 100-acre field wrapped up. Not sure if it looks like 100 acres to you guys or not, but it's definitely big enough with this little V-ripper. I do like the bigger discs. Grandpa's still going down there in that field. Might have to touch up a few spots on the corners. Other than that, he should be done really soon. She had a lot smaller field and a bigger machine. So yeah, it looks like he just now finished. So we'll finish this field up, then we'll go down to the smaller field next door and touch up the little spots that got missed. Now that this field's all done, let's run back and touch up the little spots on the other. We'll use the Oliver. I guess we could use this. No, we better use the Oliver, since it's not plowing, it's just cultivating it. Looks like it was pretty much just the headlands that got missed. Except for maybe this one here. I'm not sure what the excuse is on this one. We'll grab it. Then we got the other two corners to do. And it'll be ready to be seeded. I don't believe this field needs lime this time. I believe it was still good since we just put lime on it last year. We'll get it some fertilizer on it. Not sure if we should cultivate the 100-acre field, because all we've done so far is ripped it and plowed it up. We should actually get it cultivated or disked, make the ground texture a little better. We'll see what it looks like after we lime it. I think before we get to spreading lime on those fields and fertilizing, I think we need to get up here and get this thing washed off. So it'll be done until tomorrow. Let's just try to clean this thing off, make it look good again. All that dirt getting up in it. Not too worried about the cultivator. It's going to be dirty anyhow. At least we'll try to keep the tractor nice and clean. There, get it parked, put away. Alright, here we go. Now let's get on to the next thing. But one thing I've realized after having more calves here over the winter, that we are going through a lot more feed. So let me get in here real quick and these guys fed up again. Fed up again. Yeah. Get them fed again. Feed in their bunks. This is a little more realistic than just dropping a hay bale in here. So we'll feed them this way. Using our good old trusted Deutz here to do the work. Well, we better get back out and get in the field before we lose all the daylight. I think I'm going to go ahead and spread the fertilizer before I get the lime, since the fertilizer cart's already filled with fertilizer. They're trying to get it dumped out. Fertilize this old field first. I'm not sure if we can lime and fertilize, fertilize the field first, if we go ahead and lime after it or not. We may actually put a round of fertilizer down on the 100-acre field too. Maybe that'll be enough ground to get through this whole cart. This definitely needs some fertilizer on it. We did corn in this field last year, so this year this will be the soybeans. We'll put the corn down in the south place, and we'll probably do the 100 acres in corn this year also. Depending on how the year goes, if we'll turn any of it into silage or if we'll be able to harvest it all. So we won't know that till the harvest time, obviously. So let me get this thing all fertilized up, and then we'll move back to the 100. Well, we got that field all done. I think we'll call this field the 55. That was one of the fields on the farm, 55, which is a 55-acre field. So we'll call that one 55. Of course, this one's the 100. Then we got the hay field, the lone tree. We got the field back in the back. That's called the south place. Of course, will grow down there a little bit more this season too. It'll be a little, we'll get another pasture down there, maybe another hay field. I'd like to find an open range map. It's where the cattle can just be in a regular pasture instead of having to have a barn. I know there's some mods out there, so I haven't really found one where you can have them just go anywhere and build a fence around it. So hopefully I can find something for that. If you know of any that'll work that a way where you can just put a fence around a piece of land and the cattle can roam wild in it, let me know. Put that in the comments. I'll have something to look into for the next episode. Let me continue with this one. Looks like I'm still going to have fertilizer left by the time this is all done. This is quite a bit bigger than the 55. We'll see how it goes. Well, we didn't use up much of our fertilizer, so we're still going to have plenty of fertilizer in here to try to get out, or to put the lime in. Pretty well used up, or pretty well finished up though. Little piece right here. Shut this thing off, take this back to the house, and see if we can get some lime put in it. Well, I couldn't get the fertilizer to go into the bin, so instead, I think we'll fill this all the way up. We just put them in totes. I mean, that's realistic, right? I think so. Every farm in the 1980s had a tote laying around. Let's head back to the 100-acre field before it gets too dark and hopefully get the lime spread. Don't know if we're going to have enough lime to do this whole field, but I think that'll finish it for today. Come back next time where we're going to get these fields planted, both the 55 and the 100. We'll head down to the south place. We'll get that field ripped up and try to look and see how we want to expand it down there. So until next time, have a blessed day, and bye-bye.
For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.